Yo guys, Henry here, and welcome to my Samsung Galaxy A73 5G review. While this year's A73 looks a bit like last year's A72, it's easy to get lost in the numbers and improvements. Like this year's 120Hz refresh rate over last year's 90, this year's 108 megapixel camera over last year's 64 megapixel camera, and then overall a better display quality over last year's. Well, let's put those numbers and improvements aside so that I share with you my experience with this phone after a few weeks, and then you tell me if it's worth it to upgrade to it or not. So let's go. Coming into this review with a mindset that this phone is supposed to be a mid-range phone and not a flagship, I wasn't really expecting much. Even though this has a plastic back, it has this matte finish that gives it this sturdy grip and also a premium feel. It has an aluminium framing around the phone and then just has glass at the front. The front-facing camera is a punch-hole camera, which I've mentioned in my past videos that I actually really like. Now, the display on this phone is actually a Super AMOLED Plus display that makes colors so much great. I'm used to getting this level of display quality in more expensive phones like the S lineup or flagship devices, but having to be able to get it on this phone and not spending as much is actually really great. Colors look vibrant, the blacks look black because obviously it's an AMOLED display, and also overall just shows how much time or how good Samsung displays are. The next thing that to me complements the display of the phone is actually the speakers. Wait, I'm not confused, hear me out. This phone to me has like top of the line speakers I've heard in any other phones or mid-range devices. It has stereo speakers, one at the bottom, then it uses the earpiece as a second speaker, and they sound really good. And I enjoy listening to music out of these speakers. And even more so, the reason why I said it complements the screen is I tend to spend a lot of time playing video games or watching movies. Yes, watching movies on my phone because the speakers look good and the pictures also look really great on this phone. And it's a no-brainer. And I really appreciate the fact that Samsung places a lot of work into giving us this level of speaker quality. But speaking of sound, one thing that would disappoint a lot of people is the fact that this phone, or this year, they didn't add a headphone jack. Last year it did, this year it didn't. So for a lot of people, that is a downgrade. But I don't really use wired earpiece or earbuds for a very long time now, so it didn't really bother me. But yeah, it's something we've come to experience from expensive or flagship phones. So being able to experience no headphones on this phone is actually cool, I guess. Well, another thing that I feel complements the display of this phone is the cameras. On the front, this phone has a 32 megapixel punch-hole camera. At the back, it has 4 cameras. The main shooter being a 108 megapixel. Well, I'm coming. I had to check the other cameras. But yeah, the other camera is a 12 megapixel ultra wide camera, a 5 megapixel micro camera, and then a 5 megapixel depth sensor, which to me are like the best collection of lenses you can have on the phone. Like you're able to take your macro shots when you want to, you're able to take your ultra wide pictures when you want to. I mean, who needs a telephoto lens? Not me. So I find it really impressive the amount of details you can get in taking pictures with the 108 megapixel. Well, the 108 megapixel camera or sensor I thought was going to come with Samsung's higher flagship phones, but it didn't. So being able to get it here without having to spend a ton of money before getting it is actually a really good thing. Well, I like the way pictures taken with this phone, both the back camera and the front camera, turn out. And I love Samsung's general look or processing, image processing on this phone. Yes, it's not to the level of the S22 lineup, but then it's actually really great comparing the price. So let me say this. For a lot of people that I showed these pictures or pictures taken with this phone too, they kept complaining about how the picture quality or the pictures are not as good as the Samsung Galaxy S22 and then the S22 Ultra, whatever. But here's the thing. This phone doesn't cost as much as those phones do. So you wouldn't be expecting to get that level of picture quality from them, even though this phone has like a higher megapixel count. So there is that. And then whilst we are on the camera, here's one thing I bet you didn't know about Samsung cameras. If you are in the Samsung camera app and then you double tap the power button, it switches to the other camera. So like if you're in the front camera, like you're in the back camera and then you double tap, it switches to the front camera, which is actually a really, really good feature. As far as performance and battery life goes, it's what you'd expect from a Samsung mid-range device. Well, I haven't had any issues or hiccups when I was testing out this phone, and I was able to handle everything I threw at it, like a ton of stuff and a ton of gaming. Well, Samsung said the batteries on this phone, or the battery on this phone, is going to last you about 2 days, but I ended up having to charge the phone at the end of every day. But then there were some times I had to charge it twice during the day. That is, if I woke up early and spent way too much time on my phone. So there is that. But generally, it's actually really good. But this year, the phone doesn't come with a charger in the box. So keep that in mind when you're buying this phone. Well, at the end of the day, this phone is actually an all-around good device. And I won't think twice to recommend this phone to anyone who would want to buy some. Heck, I'm actually considering getting one for myself if I'm able to get my hands on the storage space or the storage capacity that I want here in Ghana. Either way, tell me what you think in the comment section below. Would you want this phone? Would you recommend it to someone? Have you used any of the A70 lineup devices before? Tell me your thoughts in the comment section below. And see you guys next time.